Hi, all my buddies out there, all my Amtrak friends. This is Raleigh Wingo. I was a Marine for 20 years. I was an Amtracker. Done a lot of crazy things in my life, but I'll tell you, the last few days has been pretty spectacular. I got my old F-250 running again. I got that bad boy. I replaced the starter, the alternator. I replaced a lot of things on that truck, and it was really nice to hear her run today. Got her inspected, passed the inspection, took her down to the DMV, put some new tags on her, and I'll tell you what, guys, this truck, she's an old timer, 1995 Power Stroke 7.3. It was a lot of work. I mean, I had to replace a lot of stuff on that truck. Everything from the battery cables to the batteries. I troubleshooted it all the way back as far as I could go. And, you know, when I got everything together, I couldn't get her cranked up. I was like, what the hell? Let me tell you what happened. I did something very stupid. You got to go back to basic Amtrak skills. Okay, I replaced the alternator, the starter, the wiring harness. I replaced an awful lot of crap on this truck. It was a challenge, okay, because this was an old truck I got out of a junkyard. I paid $500 for the body, got an engine married up with her. That was another piece of work. Took a long time, but today was a spectacular day. After all the troubleshooting I've done with this truck as a basic Amtrak operator, not a mechanic, I started thinking, okay, I've replaced the starter, I replaced the alternator, wiring harness, I've replaced some of the fuses. There's a lot of stuff I replaced on this truck. And this, you know, it's a 1995 Power Stroke. There's a lot more to it than you think it is. This is the first year they introduced the Power Stroke to the computer. So I had to deal with the engine and the computer. So what I decided to do was to keep it simple, stupid, like a Marine Corps acronym I was taught many years ago. She wouldn't crank. Everything I did, I could not crank that fucking truck up whatsoever. I cranked it. And then I started realizing, hey, wait a minute. You know, if you get back to basic mechanical diesel experience, what you do is go to the mechanical side first. So what I had to do is bypass the computer, which was running the truck. So instead of me trying to crank the truck up like a normal person would do, I decided, hey, let's bypass all this computer shit. Let's just try to get the mechanical side of the vehicle running. So what I did, I took a screwdriver on the firewall, bypassed the computer, cranked it up, and she started smoking. And I said, that's a good sign. We're smoking. We got smoke coming through the tail. So I decided, okay, maybe the problem is with the truck is the fuel filter has been in there too long. And that's why the fuel's not going into the injectors and firing this bad boy up. So what I did today was pretty phenomenal. Simple, basic Amtrak step or mechanical step from a basic Amtrak mechanic. I took the fuel filter out. I drained the bowl, got all the water out of there. I put some Hot Shot. This is some pretty good diesel stuff. Hot Shot is man, it will clean your injectors out in a heartbeat. Okay, I did all that, put a new filter in there, and guess what? She cranked up. I couldn't believe it, man. This truck has been sitting for 5 months in my fucking, I call it the Amtrak fucking barn queen. A barn queen was sitting there for 5 months, and I've thrown every damn part on that damn truck. I've thrown about every damn thing I could, replaced an awful lot of parts with my neighbor, Joe. He's a good man. He knows what he's doing. But he couldn't even figure out. Most of the mechanics now don't know anything about the old engines, the old international engines that didn't rely on a computer. What they relied on was basic diesel mechanic knowledge on how to get a damn thing running. And what they did, they would troubleshoot it. And I was taught by many of my mentors in the past, Floyd, Mr. Patterson, and Top Pete, and a lot of you other Amtrackers out there and maintenance men. Go back to the basics when you don't understand why the vehicle is not running. Go back to the basic mechanical principles what makes the diesel run. You got to have compression. You got to have spark. You got to have air. and you got to have fuel. And I troubleshoot this truck down to the point of just tearing everything apart. I did a lot of it. My buddy next door, he's a certified mechanic, and he never worked on a 7.3. A 7.3 is a little bit different than the newer diesel engines they got now on the road. These trucks are basically mechanical. Most of the parts in them are mechanical. So if you can bypass the computer and get it running, the computer will kick in with it, and that's kind of what I did today. When I realized that I had a fuel pump problem, a fuel problem, what was causing all my problems was not the engine. The engine was fine. The fuel rail pressure was fine. All the pressure points, and it even has an OBO2 port. I plugged my OB2 scanner in, but it wasn't giving me the correct reading. So I said, fuck the computer. Let's keep it simple, stupid. Let's go back to the basics. Okay, we started with a very simple thing called basic knowledge of an Amtracker, tracing what the problem is and why the damn engine ain't starting. You got to have fuel, you got to have spark, you got to have compression. If you don't have those three going for you, that damn diesel engine ain't going to run no matter what you do. And you don't need a goddamn computer. So I bypassed the computer, and what I did, I drained the fuel bowl out with all the water that accumulates in the engine over time, because if you don't run it, you're going to get a lot of water, and that vehicle is not going to start. So what I did, I pulled the fuel filter out of there. I drained the fuel bowl. I got this stuff called Hot Shot for diesels. It is really good because I put it in the fuel bowl. So I wanted a direct feed from that Hot Shot going into my injectors to clear out all the garbage and the water and all that other extraneous shit out of the injectors. So what I did, I got that done. I got a screwdriver. I bypassed the computer, and I kept cranking it, and it kept cranking it, and finally that son of a bitch, she took off like a bat out of hell. I couldn't believe it. I never seen so much smoke coming out of my tailpipe in that old F-250 today, and I was pretty damn happy because I finally got her running, and I let her run. And when you get a vehicle like that that's been sitting a while, it accumulates water. And most of you Amtrak diesel mechanics probably know that better than I do, but I learned it by myself. So what I decided to do was we got her running, and we got two tanks in that truck. I got one tank. There's two tanks in the F-250. I let her run and let her run and let her run. And I drove that truck, and I drove it and just got all the water out of the system, bleeded everything out, added some more cetane because we got cold weather coming on, so it won't gel up during the cold starts in the morning. And I did it and did it. And I'll be damned if I didn't get that truck running today. And I'm very happy about that. So to all my brothers out there that are former Amtrackers or former maintenance men, I want to share this little video with you. If you learn how to troubleshoot shit, and you do like I did today, and you're persistent with it, because you can get tired of it. Like, man, when is this fucking thing going to crank up? Well, if you keep fucking with it, and you keep playing with it, and you keep toying with it, and you keep troubleshooting it, you'll get it running like I did today, and it was awesome. And I want to share this with all my buddies out there and all my Amtrak friends. If you have a car or vehicle that's giving you a hard time, keep it simple, stupid. Go back to the basics. Go back to spark, fuel, compression. If you're going to gas engine, spark, combustion. Because if your plugs are bad, it ain't going to start. If your glow plugs are bad, it ain't going to start. I replaced all this shit in that 7.3. I troubleshooted a little bit at a time. Yeah, it took me a while. 4 months. That truck sat there for 4 months. Wasn't ran because I couldn't afford to run the damn thing. And I decided today, hey, wait a minute, man. I'm running my F-150. She's a gas car, or gas truck, I meant to say. And that motherfucker is getting beat up because I'm driving her every day and the tires are wearing down. I decided, hey, we're going to shut that fucker down for a little while. We're going to do a little bit of maintenance stand-on on that F-150 now that I got the diesel up and running, because that diesel is going to take me farther than that goddamn F-150 is. And by the way, that diesel is going to give me double the distance I can travel, and it's less maintenance, believe it or not. When you're dealing with a gasoline engine, you're dealing with spark plugs and all sorts of weird shit, and the wear and tear. And I decided, well, we're gonna stand down the F-150, and now we're gonna start doing maintenance on her. I got tires I got to replace on her. I've got other issues going on with her. But what I figured I'm gonna do is, now that I got the F-250 up and running, we're gonna put her back on the road again, because I get double the distance of my fuel, and it's not that hard to maintain. All you got to do is make sure, if it gets too cold, to put a heater block on the bottom of it. I got a couple of ways of rigging up some heater blocks. Another thing I've done, which is kind of unusual, and you might be surprised about this, I covered it up with plastic. What does plastic do? Well, it keeps the fuel warm. It's like a greenhouse. You cover your truck up, your car up, or whatever you got as a diesel, cover it up, and then put a heater block on the bottom of it. I use an oil pan heater block. You can plug it in the bottom of the heater, but let it run all night. And then when it's like 20 degrees out there in the morning and you're having problems cranking that damn thing, you ain't gonna have no problems, because that when you run that engine and you cover her up with plastic, it'll stay warm in there all night. And if you keep the heater block going, it'll maintain the heat in the engine. So when you get up there, when it's like 20 degrees in the morning and you're attempting to crank up a diesel, I don't care if it's a Mercedes-Benz F-250, I don't care what kind of equipment you got, it's going to crank that son of a bitch up a lot quicker, because all that heat's been trapped in the engine, and it's keeping the fuel warm so it won't freeze up and gel on you if you're running a diesel. So little tips of the trade from an old Amtracker to all my friends out there. I wanted to share this little video clip to all my buddies out there. You live and learn, And diesels and gasoline engines are two different animals. A diesel engine takes a little bit more in the wintertime to get it going, and a gasoline engine just maintain the batteries. And maintain the batteries in both these guys, because on those cold mornings, when you do those cold morning starts, man, it really, I got solar panels on it, but if it gets below 20 degrees, you might want to go ahead and plug in a battery charger to your batteries, because if it goes below 20, the solar panels don't work all that good. I've already found that out. So live and learn. I hope I taught you brothers a little bit of Amtrak ingenuity if you got a diesel out there or a gasoline car. I'm not no special mechanic. I'm just Raleigh Wingo here, the old jarhead. I'm just rolling on, baby. And I hope those tips might help you out a little bit if you're experiencing those cold weather mornings, attempting to crank your car up or your diesel. But the diesel engine, you got to spend a little bit more careful attention to detail on maintaining the warmth in that car. My best bet is cover up with plastic, completely cover it, and put a heater block on the bottom of it at night. If it gets below 20, you might want to get a battery charger, because solar panels, they only work to a certain degree, and they really don't do a whole lot of good. But they're good if the temperature is below, if the temperature is actually above 32 degrees, chances are you'll probably crank up. But if it gets below 32, I'd recommend you put a heater block on your engine for your vehicle and cover that thing up and keep that heat in there. And I've been doing this for a while, and I'll tell you what, man, it works. I got a 1975 Mercedes-Benz. It don't have a heater block on it. So what I decided to do is this, pretty simple. I decided we're going to do this. We're going to cover that car up to maintain the heat in the vehicle during the cold hours of the night. Turn the heater block on, keep the engine block warm, and it'll also trap all that warm air inside the engine. And when the morning comes up, you turn the heater block off and let Mother Nature do her thing. It'll heat the whole car up. And what that does is it makes starting that diesel engine, whether you have a Mercedes-Benz or a 250 Ford or whatever you got as a diesel, believe me, it works. And it's a little thing I did as an experiment, because I do a lot of gardening with greenhouses, and I figure, well, if it's you got your greenhouse covered up. You got your plants in there. They're staying nice and warm during the night. It could be 20 degrees, double the temperature underneath the plastic. So a little bit of Amtrak ingenuity here. Hope you like this little video, guys. I'm not Mr. Jack of all trades. I'm just the average Joe, the average jarhead, trying to keep his diesels and his cars running in the extreme cold weather. I hope you like this. Share it to your friends, and you all have a big yes for an evening tonight. Have a good one, guys. I hope this little bit of knowledge might help some of you out there that have diesels or cars that are having problems during the cold weather, because been there, done it, baby. And also, don't forget, maintain those batteries. You got to maintain those batteries. You know, if you don't have no start, you ain't going to go nowhere the next morning. All right. I said enough here tonight. I hope you like this little video on how to keep your car alive during the frigid weather during the winter time. Have a good one. Yes, Semper Fi, take care, and do or die of the Marine Corps. Hoorah, hoorah, hoorah.